This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski.
Featuring defense attorney, Hidden Killers daily contributor, and host of the Defense Diaries podcast, Bob Motta.
If you want to talk about a case that inspires conspiracy theories or makes you possibly even believe them, the Delphi murder case is certainly one of them. Here to talk about it more is defense attorney Bob Motta.
And people might say it's like tinfoil hat conspiracy type stuff. I don't think it is.
Yeah.
But the timing of this is very convenient for the state.
Oh, my God.
You have a pending Frank's motion. Forget about the Odinism.
Yeah,
crap.
exactly. Yeah. Take all that out of it.
Yeah, you've got a Frank's motion where they're saying that Tony Liggett, the sheriff, went in and lied to get the warrant. You have the cops that have the vested interest in getting this conviction are the ones investigating the leak. That's shady.
Yeah.
It needs to be an independent investigation away from all those guys, away from people that have a vested interest in seeing a conviction in this case to see what went down, because it seems it seems awfully convenient, the timing of this, for this leak to happen when, in my estimation, the state was getting their butt handed to them by these two defense attorneys. And like the memo or not, that's what a defense of a guy that you believe is innocent looks like. It's what it looks like. People aren't used to it. But that's it. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah.
The state gets their theory of the case out in every case. That's what PCA are.
Yeah.
That's all it is, their theory, So for me, I'm very pro-defense on this thing, but I'm really pro-Constitution.
Yeah.
In that they violated Richard Allen's Sixth Amendment right, which ultimately, the thing that I care most about in this case is justice for Abby and Libby. And I think that this judge has created an absolute, positively, without question, appeal that this thing, if he gets convicted, is getting remanded because she screwed the whole thing up.
Is there any way at this point that this judge can get off of this case other than recusing herself from it? Or
yeah, there is.
With the Supreme Court looking at it, tell me more about that.
So the Supreme Court, another thing that happened, so right after that happened, something called a writ of mandamus, a petition for a writ of mandamus and prohibition was filed. And this basically said, and I loved this document, like writs of mandamus are some old timey law, but like you don't see them that often. And so they brought it basically saying that the way that she ran her docket, the way that she has run this case, basically in the shadows, that the way that she would remove filings by the defense just from the docket so that no one could see them, the way that she erased, not only sealed, but erased off the docket the filings by Brad Rosie at the end, that she's violating the state code in terms of how dockets are supposed to be run. There's very specific rules. I mean, when you look at the rules, she violated them. It's a slam dunk. She did. She completely destroyed this docket. So that particular writ of mandamus, and that was filed by different attorneys. So it wasn't filed by Baldwin or Rosie, and it wasn't filed by David Hennessy, who was representing Andy Baldwin. And he was the one who had filed a late motion saying that Andy Baldwin also didn't withdraw. It was coerced because you were threatening him. And, he considers himself to still be Richard Allen's attorney. So he was there as kind of in a limited appearance type role. But you had three other lawyers, interested lawyers, all defense side lawyers that didn't like what they were seeing in this case, that filed this as relators to the Supreme Court. And they're going to hear that one out. So today we just found out that Judge Gull, that the Attorney General of Indiana, who typically would represent a judge or a prosecutor in a case like this, said, yeah, I'm good, and declined to represent her. So she had to hire private counsel for herself.
Really?
That just came down today. And she asked for 5 additional days to prepare her response to the Supreme Court on this thing. And so, but none of that relates to getting Rosie and Baldwin back on the case or recusing her. But what it does is it puts the spotlight with the Supreme Court of Indiana right on this case.
Yeah.
And it's on their radar big time. They understand that this is the biggest case in Indiana history. they're not going to let this judge blow this thing up like this.
Yeah.
And I fully expect that next move that another writ will be filed, another original action where they will be seeking to have her recused, that the Supreme Court remove her, that they reinstate Baldwin and Rosie, and additionally that they stay the trial, meaning they delay it, which still is a win. Even if they delay the trial for 2 months, you're bringing back the guys that have been working for a year on this thing that could probably have been ready to go to trial. Maybe not in January, but probably early spring, as opposed to waiting until October. So it's a win in that sense too, because it is not in the judge's purview for her to decide whether or not she agrees or disagrees with the defense strategy or theory of the case. That is not a judge's role at all. So
how did this all go so wrong and so off the tracks? Is this something where it's as simple as they're originally trying to cover up Tony Liggett's lies, and then it just kind of continued to snowball, and then everybody has to keep covering for somebody? Again, taking Odinism off the table, it almost seems like something of that nature where this really didn't need to go that far. But then it also makes you wonder, what else is going on here in this courtroom, in this courthouse? In other cases, is it just as chaotic in other cases, or is it just this one?
I mean, this isn't even her county.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I am not in a position at this particular time to make certain accusations, but the one thing that I will say generally is that something stinks in Delphi.
Yeah.
You know, that I feel very comfortable the way that this has gone down. I lean heavy towards, and again, it was before, and I think I've said it before on the show, long before the memo, I always thought that PCA was weak as water. I thought it was paper thin.
Yeah.
You know, I said it from the get. If you go back and check since I've been talking on the case post-arrest of Richard Allen, I said they better have more evidence than this, and they better collect more evidence after the arrest, because if that's what they got, that is not nearly enough to convict somebody. And I am not convinced that he is the guy at all. So now, of course, if it goes to trial and they have really credible, good evidence, and of course, I'm changing my mind.
Sure.
But where I sit right now, and based on the fact that I've heard what I consider to be very reliable information about alternate suspects, I think that this case should still be investigated. I think that the girls deserve that. I think that the families deserve that, because the girls' families rely on the prosecution and law enforcement. They put all their faith into what they're saying, that they have the right guy. You know what I mean? All of it. So, and that is a very small town, man.
Yeah.
Like every time I'm there, it becomes more and more evident that everybody knows everybody. And there are very few secrets in that town. And, you know, like it is very difficult. The amount of people that are, because I'm like neck deep in it, the amount of people blowing me up, like in giving me intel and me trying to sort through what's fact and what's not fact, or what could be fact. And I don't put any of it out, because my whole MO is just facts. Yeah. So, you know, and until I'm able to vet something, like I'm not going to be like putting anything out there. All I can say about what's been going on right now in this last month and a half, actually, since the memo dropped, is it seems awfully convenient for the state that these leaked photos popped up at this point in time, right when we're on the verge of a Frank's hearing, which she still had not set. I mean, it was inexplicable to me. Yeah. It's like when you look at that docket in one of the highest profile cases in the country, and you see what Judge Gull was not doing in terms of setting hearings, that not only had the memo been filed, the state had also answered, and there still was not a hearing date set. She sets this, like, there is no court order setting the date of October 31st. It just kind of appeared out of thin air, with no like real rhyme or reason of why they were going. No one knew what she was going to have heard that day. She didn't say that it was going to be the Frank's hearing. Like, it's just, there's something off about it. Yeah. And I can't put my finger on it. And I don't want to think super nefarious things, because it's scary to think that can happen at such high levels. But man, something stinks in Delphi.
Want to listen ad-free? Want advance access to all of our interviews before anyone else?
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
You get every episode commercial free.
So you can binge on true crime
Until you can binge no more.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts now, or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast next.